The International Center for Northern Governance and Development at UofS was established with funding from the Wall government and Cameco Corporation. How do these relationships impact on the expressed goal of indigenizing the university? We will hear plenty about that today from those of you attending today's rally and from UofS Senators speaking.
So in the last Senate meeting, we received a presentation from the Executive Director of the Sylvia Fedoruk Center for Nuclear Innovation. That presentation was not requested by the Senate members. And in that presentation, he explained that one of the goals of the institution was to combat what he called pea shooters and wet sponges and fear mongers. And these were people that he said were critics of the nuclear industry, and that he wanted the Senate to understand that in every day and in every way, nuclear is making us safer and healthier. But since I've been on the Senate, I've been on the Senate for 6 years now, and I have seen that what's happening in the North. And there's people on this Senate, elected members on this Senate, there's representatives from the Métis Nation, and they are telling us that their communities are struggling, that people are in crisis, that the land is being destroyed, and there is resistance, and these people are on the Senate, and they're trying to tell these stories to the other senators. They're trying to say, no, nuclear isn't making us safer and healthier every day in every way. That is not true. And at the same time, after that presentation, this university is bragging about indigenizing the university, while calling Indigenous people pea shooters and wet sponges, telling them that they don't have a right to speak in this meeting. This makes a farce of the indigenization of the university. And this is something that we have been struggling with for years. Behind the mask of indigenization, we have Indigenous people being silenced. We have critical research on nuclear issues, on Indigenous issues, on what's happening in the northern communities in Saskatchewan. We have that research being silenced. We do not have a platform in this meeting to discuss these issues. We were invited to request that an Indigenous member of one of these northern communities come to the Senate and present this information. And when we made that request, we were told, no, the Senate is not here for debate. We want just for you to receive the information that the administration gives us. That is the message that we are being sent. And the Indigenous people can't wait anymore. We can't wait anymore, and we have to call out what's happening with this Indigenous agenda at the university. It's not helping Indigenous people in the North, and the university continues to partner with corporations like Cameco that is actively destroying these communities. It is telling these people, if you don't want a job with Cameco, we are fine leaving you to languish in deprivation, because there is nothing else for these people other than these Cameco jobs. And that is not a choice that these people can make. That is a choice that they have to make to survive. And we as a university are complicit in forcing people into these jobs and forcing people to consent to Cameco. And the few people who have the courage and the wherewithal to question what's going on are treated completely disrespectfully in these meetings. And that is why we organized this event today. We made 4 demands. 1, that Candace Paul from English River First Nation speak to the Senate, as we had invited her to do. We asked that Neil Alexander's presentation, where he characterized Indigenous people as pea shooters and wet sponges, be acknowledged as incorrect, offensive, and completely unacceptable for a university body to be inviting that type of rhetoric and presentation into an academic decision-making body. We asked that the university stop partnering with corporations, organizations, and institutions that are actively participating in what we see as colonization and a genocide of Indigenous people. These are, as I said, these are corporations that are forcing people into jobs. They don't have any other options, and it's destroying the people in the North. And then finally, that indigenization should mean that we respect Indigenous governance models. We respect Indigenous ways of knowing. We respect Indigenous knowledge. And we take active steps to end Indigenous colonization and genocide in the North. And that's not happening right now. And that's our final demand for the action today.
shooters and wet sponges. We're an educational institution, number one. Number two, we're an educational institution that respects Indigenous voices. Were you serious about when with all respect, information about the senators here, my request to have an Indigenous person heard in response to those comments at our fall meeting was denied by the executive committee. I gave tobacco, I presented it in a good way because where I come from, according to a presenter that the executive committee invited to speak here, a lot of our Indigenous people are sad, confused, wet sponges and pea shooters. We disagree with that. I requested for an Indigenous woman, a very respected member of English River First Nations, to speak. That request was denied on the basis that the Senate is a forum for receiving information. That's exactly what I was trying to do, Mr. Fable. I was trying to bring the Indigenous voice here so that you could receive that information. That's a very logical request. And I refer to section 155. I'd like to make a motion that Candace Paul of English River First Nations now be heard.
Brian Lee, I second that motion.
Okay, so I just conferred with the secretary, and this requires, to have somebody speak requires 50% of the senators to approve. So we have a motion on the floor. I'll entertain a question to hear the speaker. All in favor, please.
19.
Opposed?
Opposed
Opposed to the motion?
to the motion. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26,
It's unbelievable.
27,